What's going on, everyone? Welcome back into another live edition of the Patriots Beat podcast here on the CLNS Media Network, presented by our wonderful friends over at Prize Picks. It's Brian Hines back as always with Alex Barth. Day 14 of Patriots training camp in the books. It was another toasty one down there at Gillette today. Temperatures in the high 80s. Patriots ditched the pads, went with shells, kind of their uppers. Today as they get ready for Tuesday travel day. Some big practices with Minnesota coming later this week. So Barth kind of had the vibe of a regular season practice, right? A lot of scout team work, which was really the first time we saw that this summer. So, getting ready for another opponent there with the Vikings coming in. But we did get at the end of practice, kind of one legit session, one full run practice, 1:30 on the clock, ball at the Patriots 25, Drake May versus the top Patriots defense. And these are the area we talked about yesterday that they have been struggling a little bit. And boy, did they struggle in that last session, because it was a messy minute 30 hurry up drill, a lot of pressure, a lot of throwaways, some penalties. Mike Vrabel gave them an earful, and they had to move the chains. Vrabel had to move the chains a couple times to even just attempt the field goal, which then missed. And we'll talk about the kickers later. But still, Barth, those end of practice hurry up situations not very sharp for Drake May and the Patriots offense, and it was again today.
No, they're not. And this was, we talked about it yesterday, kind of the defense bouncing back and responding to seemingly being called out to by Mike Vrabel, having a better practice. And I think the defense had a good day yesterday. And the defense definitely made some plays today. Carlton Davis had a good pass breakup on that drive. Marcus Jones, I think, had a couple as well. But this was as much self-inflicted issues from the offense as I think we've seen all summer. You had the false start. You had one play where, like, I think you mentioned it, Drake May tries to throw in the flats, Travion Henderson. Henderson never turns. Like, the ball's by him, and he doesn't see it. So somebody had the wrong route there, either May or Henderson. It's impossible to know who without the play call, but this felt like yesterday. I just thought the defense showed up, made plays. The offense had a bad snap in there, but I thought the defense showed up, made plays. Today felt much more like the offense getting in its own way, which obviously we know is something Mike Vrabel does not want. He's talked about that being one of his early pillars, right? Is taking advantage of bad football and not committing bad football on their own. The offense had a bad football day today.
Yeah, and the penalty, I feel like, was the big one, because it was a fourth down on the sticks, and they don't get it. It might have been DPI. There weren't refs out there today, obviously. So whether they gave it to him or not, they moved the ball to continue with that session and continue with the situation. And then right after, I'm guessing it's a delay game, because Vrabel is in the backfield and he throws his paper up in the air, and then he's barking to him about the play clocks, how they're over there and over there. So just kind of sloppy situational stuff there. And then again, like, Kayvon Chason beats Will Campbell and Jared Wilson, just like you saw in the preseason, just kind of inverted on the inside with a stunt, wraps around them. They can't pick that up. It would have been a dead sack, and then they have to move the football again after the next play is probably a would-be sack too, to set up the field goal. So some self-inflicted wounds by the offense definitely today, struggling to move the ball in that final drill. I wouldn't say, I don't know, I'm not saying alarms are sounding, right? Like, I think they'll have a good chance against a new opponent in Minnesota to kind of correct some of those woes, and we'll talk about what we're looking forward to there, because it's a tough defense in Minnesota. But still a lot of time. You're in 2-3 weeks now of practicing against the same opponent, and it's your own teammates, right, on defense. So not sounding the alarm over here, but definitely that's been a consistent area of struggles this summer so far.
Yeah, and that's where, like, they were good in certain settings, but it feels like the realer it gets, the more they struggle. And obviously that's not what you want, because come week one, it's all going to be real, right? So I think I feel a lot worse that they didn't have that joint practice with the Commanders, but this is going to be a big couple days for them coming up.
Yeah, because they look good in the joint practice against the Commanders. So you hang your hat on that one a little bit more than these practices that have kept going, and then the Minnesota ones in the preseason games that roll on. But Elsewhere in practice, again, it was a lot of that scout team work. So, first string offense against scout team defense, vice versa with the first team defense. But we saw some things on the depth chart. Someone did Pat Stats in here, asked any updates on injuries. There was a lengthy list of guys missing from practice. I'll run through it quick. Christian Gonzalez, Jalen Polk, Mike Vrabel said both of those guys aren't expected to practice this week, go to Minnesota, or Gonzalez might travel to Minnesota.
Gonzalez is expected to go, yeah, but
Yeah,
I think he's not going to practice.
Yeah, and then Marte Mapu, who left practice yesterday early. Deneric Prince, the running back they signed yesterday, wasn't out there today. DJ James, who left practice early yesterday. Ramondre Stevenson, who has now missed 2 practices. Jelani Tavai, Kendrick Bourne, they're still out. Hunter Henry, who left early yesterday. Elijah Ponder, and then Joshua Farmer. 2. Those guys have been limited over the last, or Farmer's been limited kind of throughout the summer. Ponder wasn't there yesterday. It looked like he got hurt in the preseason game. So a couple new guys. I mean, the running back depth is kind of getting tested here with Prince, who they signed yesterday, not there. Ramondre hasn't been there now 2 sessions. Yeah. So it's just kind of, and Terrell Jennings left early with an injury today. So it's really just the Travion Henderson and Antonio Gibson's show in the backfield. But those injury updates, it is a lengthy list. So we'll see with, Henry, Mondre, those are kind of the big ones. Mapu's a little disappointing just because it seemed like he was playing pretty well at linebacker there in the preseason. And then, injuries have always plagued him, and now he pops back up with an injury there.
Yeah, I mean, the running back depth, especially, is being tested. Like we were talking about it up there today. JaMycal Hasty was getting first team reps, and I don't entirely think that's indicative that JaMycal Hasty is making a roster push. I think some of that is depth related. Is he a guy they'd like to keep around on the practice squad because of his special teams ability? Like maybe. But if Ramondre is going to miss significant time, now maybe it was a maintenance day, right? You got a big couple days coming up. You'd rather him miss today and have him be full go this week out in Minnesota rather than have him tweak something today. But they may need to add another running back at some point.
Yep. So we'll track that, see who's there in Minnesota health wise.
Did you mention in there Marcus Bryant was back? So that was the one
he was
piece
back.
Of good news.
And that was, I think, again, it was the scout team, so there wasn't much besides that last session to really look at in terms of performance, but I think there was some depth chart things to look at, and Marcus Bryant was back. He went right back to that right tackle spot on Unit 2. He also continued to work in with Morgan Moses a little bit with that top unit, so he would seem like the favorite for that offensive tackle 3 role. We know he can play left and right, so maybe that top swing tackle role. And then Vidarian Lowe actually was the second unit left tackle, which, we've seen Marcus Bryant there when Demontre Jacobs is with the second unit on the right side. So it feels like the tackle 3 is Marcus Bryant, and maybe tackle 4 right now is back to Vidarian Lowe with Trey Jacobs and then Jack Conley working with that third unit at the tackle spots.
Yeah, it definitely seems like they're giving Lowe a shot. I had on my roster projection earlier this week, I had them on the roster a TBD tackle. I still think that 4th tackle spot, and maybe they just keep 3. Maybe they really do believe in Marcus Bryant. But I think with a rookie, at least to start the year, you add another guy who can help out, a guy with a little more experience. And then if things go well with Bryant, maybe you move on from him. But it seems like they're giving Vidarian Lowe the shot now. I don't think Demontre Jacobs did with that opportunity what they maybe were looking for him to do because he's kind of moved down. So Lowe's in the mix, but the thing about Lowe is he's only left tackle. Yeah. So that at right tackle, I guess you do stuff Caden Wallace. You have a little more insurance there, but yeah.
Yeah. So good to keep Lowe around for now, just if you need a spot start at left tackle there early, because you might, Marcus Bryant's been impressive. Vrabel had a lot of nice things to say about him on Monday there, but he's a 7th round rookie. Like if he has to start early in the season, if someone gets hurt, like you probably feel a little bit more comfortable with Vidarian Lowe. So you don't want him for an extended period of time. We've seen that, but a spot starter too, you might feel better over a 7th round rookie. But anything else on kind of that, just the depth chart, offense, defense throughout these scout team periods that stood out to you today, just based off where some guys might be standing on the roster and where their playing time kind of came from today?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a good, a bad, and ugly, right, in that regard. The good, Afton Chisholm, finally a few snaps with Drake May. Wasn't a lot. I think it was like 4 or 5. He
Yeah,
did, I think, catch a pass on one of them, right? But
I think so.
there you go. And that could be a sign if today really was preparing for Minnesota. Now maybe we get to see Efton Chisholm with the ones in the joint practice, which would be big. That's going to help. I think he's on the roster. You really want to stamp it, like this would be the week to do it, right? So, now again, it wasn't a lot, but nice to just finally see that, and I think it kind of validates because we don't know, right? We're up there, we're watching, but we don't know the play calls. We don't know what the coaches are seeing. So, as much as we're hyping them up, I don't know. You start to wonder: is there something else that we're missing that's not there? Well, now you see him get this little bump. Okay, I think it kind of validates for us on the outside. Yeah, what we were seeing was real. He is having a good camp, and he's being rewarded with more opportunities. So you like to see that. The bad.
Can I just jump in on
Sorry, go
Chisholm
ahead.
quick?
Yeah.
Just tons of praise from him, from wide receiver coach Todd Downing, just talking about how a joy he is to work with. And everyone you talk to, Drake mentioned it, Vrabel mentioned it. Now Todd Downing mentions his work off the field, like in the classroom and everything. And Todd Downing was saying, you can tell a difference between him and the spring, even from the spring to the summer. Has more grasp of the offense. He's playing faster, he's playing quicker, and then you're starting to see more of his game develop. I think he mentioned top of the routes, finishing some of those catches. We talked about a couple of the highlight catches. So tons of praise from him. And then Josh Dobbs after practice, went on and on about Efton Chisholm again, mentioning, his work in the classroom, how friendly he is as a quarterback target. So tons of praise. Everyone you talk to about him just loves him. So I don't know if that's not going to give him a roster spot, but certainly doesn't help hurt his cause. How much work and how they like to see that behind the scenes. So hopefully that does kind of set the stage for a little bit more snaps with May. So that was definitely the good. But what'd you have for the bad there? I'm on the depth chart.
Kyle Duggar is still seeing that usage drop. So when they were with the top defense, it was some combination, sometimes 2, sometimes 3, but pretty much always some combination of Jabril Peppers, Jalen Hawkins, Craig Woodson. Craig Woodson continues to play well. Like, he's earned it. The second unit safeties were Duggar and Marcus Epps. And Epps doesn't look like somebody who's in position for roster spot right now. So what does that mean for Duggar? Like, his contract's going to be tough to unload. We've talked about this, whether it be a trade, whether it be in free agency. Like, how do you get him off the team? This year's tough. It's easier next year. Do they keep him as an expensive backup? Do they eat some money? That's going to be one of the top storylines down the stretch here, assuming everybody stays healthy. Kyle Duggar feels like a pretty bubble kind of player. Like, I don't see what he's doing right now as a guy who's definitely not making the team. It's a guy who's definitely not a starter. It's not reflective of a guy with his status and his contract, but it's not reflective of a guy that's going to get cut. We'll get to that in a second. It's a guy that's on the line. And so again, if he was on a rookie deal or a cheap money deal and he didn't maybe have the pass that he did, all right, Kyle Duggar, he's backup safety. Like, it would just be cut and dry. Because he has that contract, it makes it a little more complicated. The reason I don't think he's off the roster yet is because what that looks like, and this would be the ugly, and I say good, bad, and ugly in terms of for the players involved, not necessarily how they're playing, but for the players involved. The ugly to me is Anthony Jennings, who wasn't even really running with the second defense. He was almost exclusively with the scout team.
Yeah.
Which is guys that are not the only other guy that was out there on the scout team, I think that has a roster shot was Truman Jones, and Truman Jones is going to make team as a specialist, so they're giving him some run at linebacker, right? So everything I just said about Kyle Duggar, were like, it feels like he feels like a backup. He doesn't feel like a cut. The way they're using Anthony Jennings right now feels like a cut or a trade. I'd like to imagine they can trade him. He's one of the best run defenders in football last year. There still are defenses that use that kind of player, and I think he is a fit in some places. And a good fit, but he's just clearly not a fit here anymore.
Yeah, it would be disappointing if they couldn't trade him because of that production along the edge as a run defender.
Yeah. And his contract's not bad.
No, not at all. That's movable. Some team would be worth it. I don't think he has any guaranteed money after this year as well. Yeah. And it's minimal. It's only like 3 or 4 million, unlike Kyle Duggar's. But I was trying to think. I mean, I keep coming back to Flores because it's a Belichick disciple, but I don't know. His front's a little more, I guess, attacking and versatile than a Belichick front.
Yeah,
but
you brought it up on the show yesterday, like Duggar to Minnesota. Maybe like if somebody's going to take Minnesota off your hands, maybe it's Duggar. Yeah, I don't think Jennings a fit in Minnesota. Probably not.
Yeah.
Maybe,
What do you,
Houston, if you get Houston to bite on him.
I know I was
Trying to
trying to
think
think
where else.
of like old coaches on the defense side of the football that are around the league, and there's not many left, right? That
The
were,
Chiefs would have a role for him. It'd be as a backup, but he'd
yeah,
fit in the Chiefs system, kind of backing up Karloftis, right?
yeah. Because do they still have that D line coach that was here for years? He's still there, right?
I don't remember, but
I think he is. So maybe the Chiefs, some scheme fit. But yeah, all
yeah,
those defensive coaches are gone because Patricia's in
we're getting
college.
old, Brian.
I know, jeez. So we'll see with Jennings. It would be disappointing if they just had to, cut him based off his production. And Duggar, like, yeah, feels like the best case scenario is a trade, and you just need a team to bite on that. And maybe you have to eat the. I have the contract up here. 1 second.
It's like 14
There's
million, right?
it's 14 million, but like maybe you just have to eat it's just under 10 million guaranteed. Like maybe you can eat that and some team would take on the rest of it. And that would help the cap a little bit more than just taking on the full dead cap hit. But it does feel like a trade based off his standings on the field and on the depth chart right now. A trade would probably be best case scenario. So we'll see if there's a taker. Maybe Brian Flores has some interest in Minnesota this week, even though Harrison Smith is still on the
Yeah.
Vikings. I must have got God on that. He's not retired.
I
He's in
mean,
the
he's like
Vikings.
50 years old.
I
I
know.
understand why you would have thought he was retired.
I
I
I
completely
swear
understand
I
that.
saw a tweet a couple weeks ago that Harrison Smith retired, and there was like the graphic and everything. So
Ed Darn Schefter.
it must have been, and just in the midst of all the training camp chaos, I just thought it was real and moved on with my day because I'm not double checking Minnesota Vikings news back then, but now I am with the joint practice coming up. So before we talk about that joint practice, Bart, the last thing kind of take away back to performance wise from today's training camp practice was the kickers, because we've talked so much about how good and consistent the kickers are this summer. And today, everything just flipped, and it was kind of a disaster. Borgalis,
Yeah.
2 of 4, and then he finished 2 of 5 because he got the field goal in the live session. It was deep. It was like 50. It looked around. It was over 50, maybe around 55 yards, and he missed short. So Borgalis went 2 of 5, and then Parker Romo, 1 of 4. More misses today than he had all of summer combined. So not a great performance from either of those guys. Couple wonky snaps too looked like in there from rookie
At
Julian
least
Ashby.
one, yeah.
One
One on one
definitely
of the Romo
contributed
kicks.
to a Romo kick. So big, just kind of 180 in the kicker department there today.
Yeah, not what you're looking for. Definitely not what you're looking for. Look, these guys have been so good this summer. I don't know that like that performance alone is alarm bells. I almost don't want to say alarm bells because I think these guys have earned it with how good they've been the rest of the summer. But like you just can't have another day like that. You chalk it up to whatever the hell that was, and you move on. But that did not look like a team that had 2 kickers. That looks like a team that has no kickers. But I think
Yeah.
they're both better than that. Like I think it was an anomaly. It was just very striking.
Yeah, and you hope it's just an off day, right? But the
Yeah.
fact that it happened to both of them on the same day, you're like, what is
Right.
going on right here? So you hope it's just, both of them have been so good this summer. You hope they just have an off day. We did hear from Jeremy Sprainer. He's great at saying a lot without really saying much, but did anything kind of stand out to you from what he had to say about this kicker opportunity? It was a lot of just, you have to be consistent, a lot of time left. We'll see what happened. But he
Yeah.
did mention, some other factors could contribute to this, which we've, had a theory that, maybe they have to play into the kickoff in the performance on the kickoff. But did anything from Sprainer stand out to you from that kicker competition that he talked about?
I think the consistency thing is big, right? So it's not just that final number, it's are the misses spread out? Are you repeating what you're doing? The kickoff stuff was interesting, not just talking about placing the ball where you want to place it, but different kinds of kicks. Compared it sort of to like punting, where punters will have a different club in the bag, right? So some interesting stuff. I think it more so confirms some stuff that we already thought. Like, good. I'm glad we got to ask the question, actually get the answer, because now it's not us guessing; it's us saying, it's us reporting, doing our jobs. But yeah, it was good to just kind of figure out where things stand and are we on the right track as we watch this.
Yep. All right, so that was practice today. That was most of the rundown. What went on there? So we want to preview the joint practices a little bit coming up with the Vikings here. But
Wait,
very
hang
quickly,
on, Plugger. Who you got?
we doing Plugger now.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, since we're moving
uh,
on to the next thing.
okay, yeah, we'll do Plugger. I was going to give it. It was a tough one today. We needed one of the kickers to have a good day to kind of save us,
Yeah,
and
really.
they couldn't do it for us. But uh, I'll give it to Marcus Jones. 2 pass breakups on that final drive. And I wanted to give it to a defender because they really clamped down the offense on that final drive. So I'll give it to Marcus Jones because he flashed a couple times in that period with a couple pass breakups.
So I feel like it's unfair 2 days in a row to want to give it to a guy and not because the whole unit sucked. And Efton Chisholm wasn't on the field when the 1 minute drill went to hell. So I almost gave it to Efton Chisholm yesterday. I'll give it to him today. Did you give it to him yesterday?
I did, yeah.
All right.
So
So he now has 2. I think that's I don't have the list in front of me right now, but I think that's the first for Marcus Jones,
I
I
believe
believe.
so. So Efton
And
Chisholm making a little late summer surge here up the Plugger of the day rankings
yeah.
with his second, but I believe it's Drake and Caleb on Chason still with 4, then Pop, Mac Hollins, and someone else
Yeah.
had 3. So
I forget who the other person is, but he got like 2 of them in one day.
it
I
was
don't
Mac
remember who it is.
Hollins, right? I
Well,
think it was Mac
yeah,
Hollins.
next time we do the show, I'll have to send you guys because I'm not going to Minnesota. So it'll be Brian and Taylor doing the shows in Minnesota. I would hope you keep doing this. It's up to you whether you
We
want to or
will.
not.
We
Okay,
will.
so I will send you Wednesday morning. I'll take a picture of the list and send it to you, and we can keep tracking it.
So we can update it from Minnesota.
Yeah,
Sounds great.
yeah.
But let's talk about those Minnesota practices. But very quickly before we do that, I want to hear from our friends over at Prize Picks because do you guys know ball? And speaking in Minnesota, the Patriots will have their second preseason game on Saturday, 1 p.m. Great time for a preseason game. And you can spice up the action on Prize Picks, the best place to cash in on your favorite sports. Just pick more or less on player stats like receptions, receiving yards, touchdowns, rushing yards, passing touchdowns. Go over to defense, interceptions, sacks, anything for your shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash today. And even take advantage of their weekly promotions that can link to big payouts like Taco Tuesday tonight. No, what's today? Monday, tomorrow, Taco Tuesday, where projections can be discounted from 15 to 25%. That Sunday practice really threw off my whole week schedule this week. But
Yeah.
forgetting the days it is left and right. But in your Prize Picks lineup, for that Patriots game on Saturday. You can get, I'm still rolling with Efton Chisholm, all those catches, all those yards. Travion Henderson, some of those rookies, maybe we'll get some more action. I don't know if we'll see a little Drake May as well. So put them in your lineups. You can also pair them with other NFL games, preseason games across the league, any players you're looking for, or across sports. Go over to little baseball. Roman Anthony still raking more than half a hit in my lineup is always a go-to there with how well he has been swinging the bat. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. All over on Prize Picks. Run your game. All right. Quick preview of Minnesota here. Joint practices on Wednesday and Thursday. We got a pair. Hopefully they don't have to cancel the second one if the fights get really bad on Wednesday. That would be unfortunate, but it does seem like 2 joint practices are kind of rare these days. So we do have 2. Should be fun.
Yeah.
Minnesota. Barth, are you worried JJ McCarthy might light up the Patriots out there?
No. It's JJ McCarthy. No, he'll look. He has. I don't know if he'll have Justin Jefferson back, but if he has Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, yeah, maybe is going to be. I wish Gonzalez was healthy. Like this would be such a good test for the Patriots secondary. Ultimately, they won't get it. It'll be interesting to see McCarthy and May on the same field. I'm sure that will be part of the storyline. But did you see the Athletics QB tiers?
I did not.
They do have Drake May well ahead of. Well, I guess McCarthy didn't play this year. I'll pull it up. So the Athletic did. Hang on, I don't remember where I put it. I was literally just writing about it for the Sports Hub. The Athletic polled 50. It's like GMs, assistant GMs, scouts, coaches. I think there's a couple former GMs, and they're like one of those, like ESPN does, right? Like one of those polls. And they pulled them on quarterbacks. And so they broke it up, not just ranking, but tiers. So there's 5 tiers, really 4 tiers, and then poor Kenny Pickett got stuck in a tier of his own at the very end. But they have Drake May at 22. He is a tier 3 quarterback. They have JJ McCarthy at 29. He is a tier 4 quarterback. One spot behind Michael Penix.
All right. So I pulled it up. A tier 3 quarterback is a legitimate starter, but needs a heavier running game and or defensive component to win. A lower volume drop back passing offense suits him best. So that's where they have Drake May right now.
I mean, that sounds kind of right where he's at right now. You hope he becomes better than that, but
yeah. In the first
I mean,
quote,
in theory, like
he can ascend pretty quickly if he can start to hit progression. So
yeah, and a lot of the quotes are just about how bad they were last year. It like realistically for him to get to tier 2, like the bottom of tier 2 is Dak Prescott, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy. That feels attainable.
Doable. Definitely.
If everything goes right, like to catch those guys. That's a pretty wide tier. Daniels, Herbert, Goff, Stroud, Hurts, Mayfield, Prescott, Love, Purdy. I almost feel like Brock Purdy's closer to that next group, which is like Kyler Murray, Trevor Lawrence, Geno Smith, Sam Darnold. But that doesn't feel like after you get through the top 5, and I think the top 5 are pretty clear cut, it's pretty crowded. There's not that much of a gap between the next 10, 15 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And I felt that way before I saw this list, but
yeah, I say he could be in that second tier.
I know that's kind of a tangent, but I know it's kind of a tangent. I just found that list interesting.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I'll have to go through that a little closer over there on the Athletic. Drake May, 22 again, and they'll see JJ McCarthy, who's down there with the unknowns, as they call it, in tier 4 at 29. So we'll see JJ. Unfortunately, no, I don't think Justin Jefferson is going to be practicing. Jordan Addison, I believe, is practicing, although he was suspended for the regular season. So some interesting things going on in Minnesota's wide receiver room. Is Jalen Reagor back there? No, he's in Chargers, right? He's all over the place.
Last I remember, he was with the Chargers. Now? He is currently, he's still with the Chargers.
Okay, so we'll see who's there in the Minnesota wide receiver room. But that Minnesota offense, I think the big thing I'm looking at when it comes to the Patriots defense is the lines and in the trenches, and probably is fair for both sides of the football. But that's a good. They upgraded their offensive line a lot. Christian Darrisaw is back at left tackle. They go out, they sign Will Kelly, Will Fries along the interior. They draft Donovan Jackson, the guy we talked a good amount, in the back half of round 1, early round 2. They used the first round pick on Donovan Jackson there at left guard. So they have a pretty good offensive line, a remodeled offensive line, should be an improved offensive line. So I think this will be a really good test for, Barmore, Milton Williams, even Kyrus Tonga, and then some of those new look edge guys, Harold Landry, Caleb Chason has been really good. How does he look now against Christian Darrisaw, one of the best tackles in the league? So that's going to be a lot of where my attention is. We'll talk about the other side of that in the Vikings defensive line, but what do you want to see from that Patriots pass rush there kind of against this Vikings offensive line?
Yeah, same thing. Like Chason, it was great to see him come back, and he's continued to make the impact that he made before he got hurt. You don't want the guy to get derailed by an injury. It seems like he's kept up there. I'm more interested in the run defense. Again, I'll go back to where I was before the Washington joint practice. Like Milton Williams, that group, can they hold up against the run? Because they're going to be tough to throw on, but they have to at least have a baseline run defense to make sure teams are throwing.
Yep. And then flip side of that, huge test for Will Campbell, Jared Wilson, really the Patriots' whole offensive line, because Garrett Bradbury, who was in Minnesota, was talking about this yesterday. And Patriots fans know it, watching Brian Flores and what he's done here. And then since he's moved on and coordinated that Vikings defense, it's chaos up front. It's a lot of disguises. It's a lot of different pressure schemes. And he is going to come after you in all these unique, crazy ways. So we've talked about, Campbell and Wilson getting beat on these stunts and these line games. They're going to see a ton of it coming at him from Flores. It'll be a good test for the young guys and the rest of the offensive line as well. And Bradbury was saying, you need to have a plan when you go in there, even if it's just for practice. You need to have a plan to deal with Brian Flores. And you would assume Josh McDaniel, as veteran coordinator, knows Brian Flores pretty well. He'll have a plan. So seeing how that offensive line, the first offensive line, and especially those young guys hold up against, and there's talent there too, right? Andrew Van Ginkel, Jonathan Grenard, Jonathan Allen, Harrison Phillips, Javon Hargrave in the middle. Like, that is going to be a really good test for this Patriots offensive line there this week.
Yeah. No, this is going to be, and specifically, like, they are talented, but again, how do they handle those games? The mental side of it. That's what you worry about with the young offensive line more. So you don't worry about them getting overpowered, especially a couple guys coming out of the ACC. Like, they're physically ready to be NFL players. It's how do they handle the mental side of things, picking up twists and stunts, identifying late rushers, things like that. I think that's the more important thing.
Yep. So big emphasis on the trenches, I would say, this week. Anything else, Drake or any other players that kind of going to have your eye out there in Minnesota to see how they perform, or even just the snaps, and if we see a little bit more usage for someone like Efton Chisholm, Javon Baker on offense? Anything else specifically that you are looking for out there?
Yeah, Chisholm's a good one. Does Kendrick Bourne come back and kind of make a push, hold up his end with the roster spot? Defensively, we kind of talked about the pass rushers. Hawkinson gets kind of lost. They have all these good receivers. Hawkinson's a good tight end. The Patriots have struggled to cover tight ends. Do they have an answer for him? Is that Craig Woodson? It's going to be a good test for the rookie. So I would say those things mainly off the top of my head.
Yep. So should be a good one. Good 2 practices. You hope they look as good as they did against Washington, the Commanders. Drake, obviously, take care of the football. That's priority number 1 for him, and continue to move that offense. Hopefully they get some situational work again, and they can bounce back in those kind of hurry up in 2-minute drills and have a good bounce back against another team and another defense. But will be a good test. That's a good football team out there in Minnesota, well coached with Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores, of course. So it'll be a good kind of test there for Mike Vrabel and his team there as well. So, Barth, any last thoughts, or we can wrap this up?
Enjoy Minnesota.
Thank you very much. I will try. So we will have Taylor and I out there. We'll be doing plenty of content and shows live from the Vikings practice facility. So make sure you guys are locked onto Patriots Press Pass there. Like, subscribe on YouTube, and turn on those notifications as always, so you know when we are going to go live out there in Minnesota. And if you're on audio only, you can like or subscribe wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Subscribe there as well. Make sure you're also locked on to Barth's Twitter at RealAlexBarth, 985thesportshub.com as well for his Patriots content online. And you can follow me on Twitter at I am Brian Hines, and head over to patspulpit.com for our training camp coverage there as well. So thanks everyone for jumping on with us today, and we will see you guys later this week.
Bye.